All the time. He is awesome. Thank you guys for your giving. Again, everybody on live stream as well. And I want to just say thank you to everybody for your prayers for our trip. I want to share a little bit with you on that. That's why we're kind of doing a little change up and to be able to share all this with you. But thank you first and foremost for your prayers of protection and provision, as well as for my family, and Pastor Jennifer being home and those different things. But thank you, thank you, thank you for that, because you cannot do anything in the kingdom without prayer. Don't ever try it. Don't ever try to do something without God being in it and having somebody support you prayerfully, because you're going to get messed up for sure. And those of us who have been there say amen, or oh me. And so I want to thank you for that, and for everybody who has been a part of helping out with outreach, giving. Some people feel like they didn't do anything. If you prayed, you did something. If it were a buck, I mean, it doesn't matter. All of us were together on this trip, and I'm telling you, I felt your prayers. I really did. The whole team felt the prayers of the saints, and then thank you again for your giving, because it made a tremendous, tremendous difference in lives. And I'm going to share some of that here as I give this testimony. First of all, I just have to say that the Lord is an awesome God. We all know that. He's awesome and He's faithful. And, I went down there, the team and I went down there. That's my road crew right there. That's the road warriors, Joshua, Judah, and Abby. And I know others want to go, and we will go together next time. So if you want to get involved, just let me know. You just got to be ready. Amen. You got to have what's called a 72-hour bag. I mean, you're ready to go in 72 hours. Boom, get out the door. So, but anyhow, we'll work something out in the near future. But my road warriors were with me. And I made some contacts. I tried to make some contacts on the way before I went down there, and that's one of the things you try to do is get with some churches, because our belief is pastor to pastor, church to church, and that's how you distribute, and that's how you work together and network. Because I'm only there as an evangelist, as a missionary, to give and to let them disciple their people. I'm not there to camp out and move in and start a church. And so I made that effort, but so much was going on, I guess, in the communities down there that I couldn't reach anybody. And whatever voicemails I left, nobody called me back. And so those were different things that happen before you go on a trip. So literally, I didn't know anybody except a priest that I knew, who's now Monsieur. His name is Monsieur Fullman now. He's been elevated. I don't even know what it means in that hierarchy. In fact, when I called the offices, I said, can I speak to Dominic? You mean Monsieur? I was like, I don't know. Is he French now? And so, anyways, I worked with him down in Katrina. That was 16 years ago. In fact, the secretary said, you haven't talked to him in 16 years? I said, nope. I said, but he knows me. I spent 2 months down there in Biloxi, and did I say it right? Aha, see, I've been practicing. And it's a joke because I was so tired. I've said that city's name for probably 1,000 times over the past, and for some reason I couldn't say it the other day. I was so tired, and they made fun of me. And so, well, you got to have humor, right? Especially when you're driving. And I'll tell you more about the driving. And so I tried to get a hold of him, because I thought, okay, I'll just get a hold of my priest buddy there, my Catholic buddy. And somebody says, and I know people, oh, Catholic. Let me explain to you. Back 16 years ago, I went down there. I had a truckload of food coming from LaCie, which is Feed the Hungry, and we ended up delivering about 1.2 million pounds of food and medical supplies and everything you would need for a hurricane through this particular church. When I got there, I went to several different churches, and I said, hey, here we are. I got a tractor load full of food coming the next day. I said, I need a place to set up. Nope, don't have room. Nope, this reason, that reason. I won't go into details and tell you the denominations, but everybody said no except one priest. at a Catholic church. And he said, "Brother, use my facility." And I said, "Thank you, brother," you know. And I never called him father. To this day, I stood on. I said, he said, "You can't say that, can you?" I said, "No, I can't, because I only have one father." And so he laughs about that. But the long and the short of that story was we did some great work out of there. I got to meet one of the high-ranking Vatican leaders who was an outreach guy. He flew in. In fact, they brought him in on a Navy Stallion helicopter. It was just an amazing show. He had ambassador credentials and all that, and got to meet him. He actually got out of his car and hugged me and said, "My Pentecostal brother." They don't all talk like that, but that's the way I do it. And just sounds better. And he says, "I will see you somewhere in the world." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, buddy. Hopefully it's the last time I ever see you." But no, it was genuine. It was mutual because we did a lot of work there. Long story short, so I'm thinking in my mind, okay, I don't have anybody. I don't have any context, but I have God. And I know he told me to go. I know he told us to go. And I know that's the mission and mandate of this ministry. And I knew that things were going to start really ramping up. So I tried to make contacts. And Gail and Randy that were here from Independence, remember them from, well, their phones were knocked out. I couldn't even contact them because I was going to make a rendezvous up there, see them, make sure they're okay, and then shoot through Baton Rouge and come on down to the area we wanted to go. No contact. I'm like, okay, so I'm driving now, right? I'm like, okay, we got to do this thing. We've already committed. And so we went down there, and we got very close to where we're near Gulfport, is that right? And we had that little gas tracker buddy thing that tells us how much gas is available and whatever. Jennifer checked on it here at the home front. And we got there, and there was about an hour wait for gas. It was hot, and you could tell people were getting tempered. And I have a policy. I don't wait in line. I don't get in lines during crisis because I know it happens. And so we made a decision to go back towards, what part of Mississippi was that? Biloxi. I said it again. We went to Biloxi, and there we found some fuel. In fact, it was so funny. This is hilarious. The gas station, the one gas station we passed by had people waiting in line. The one after it was at the corner of where that church was that I went to 16 years ago. It was just, and nobody was waiting in line. It was amazing. We just had to, this one guy had to get out of the way. He got out of the way. We pulled in with the big caravan there, the van and the trailer, and got fuel. So now we have our fuel, and we're headed towards New Orleans, about 111 miles. And so as we're driving, we're trying to figure this out. How do we have enough fuel to go all the way to Houma, Louisiana, where it was some of the most devastation took place? How are we going to do this? And I brought 20 extra gallons of fuel with me to get out. Hello, got a brain. And I know if there's no fuel, I need to get home, Miss Sarah. I'm gonna get home. We're gonna find a way. I'm walking. And so we tried to plan it out. So we said, okay, we can make it there. Don't do a lot of driving in that area, but make it there, set up, and then we can have enough fuel to get back at least to this part of Mississippi. Everybody following me so far? That's why I needed all this time, because it's such a long testimony. And so, okay, we do it. We say, let's go for it. We're going to Houma, and we're going through. We just about get to Lake Pontchartrain, and there is an alligator on the side of the road. Now you headed to the bayou, and fortunately he was dead, or unfortunately, it depends if you're a PETA head, but he was dead, and they're all telling me, and I'm swerving. I'm like, what? Oh my goodness gracious, you know. So we start seeing the damage. As you get into New Orleans, you start seeing damage. We have some pictures we're going to show you in just a minute, but they do not do justice for what was on the ground. And we're going. Finally, we get out of New Orleans. If you've never been to New Orleans, the bridges are magnificent, and you overlook the waterways and the fuel depots and tanker depots and it's really old city, if you will, and it's something I really like to see. And so we're passing that, and we're really grieving because we know there's no power. We know those people are suffering. and we got a vehicle full of food, a trailer full of food, but we have an assignment and we can't be everywhere. But we sure wanted to pull over, but it was very hard. So we kept going, and as we're going, the destruction just gets worse and worse um, on us. And now we're in the bayous, and I'll show you that in just a minute. We get into the bayous now. Hey, there ain't nothing but banjos, gators, and crickets. I mean, there was nothing. Is that right? There was nothing out there. My children had to be wondering if their dad had a brain issue or something, because am I born to the right family? I don't think so. Should have been Rockefeller, not Faircloth. I just something's wrong here. And so we get to the town. That's a very small town, and it was a great welcoming site. When we first pulled in, there was a Buddhist temple that was to the left, and they were open for business, whatever they do. And the town is destroyed. The town is destroyed. There's no power whatsoever. All of the telephone poles, and I've seen a lot of disaster in my time, but all the telephone poles were bent like toothpicks. They were like grass. They were bent, broken. We drove over numerous power lines. Of course, everything was out, and there was no power whatsoever. So we go down these streets. We're trying to find a place to set up. We're like, okay, Lord, what do you want me to do? Of course, I'm thinking this. They don't know what I'm thinking. So we got out of the vehicle, saw some young guys and said, hey, man, y'all need some food. Made contact with them. They came back and we gave them some food and water. And then this very large Cajun man came out of his house, Mike. His name was Mike. Oh, I wish I would have filmed it. We had a great conversation. I didn't understand about half of what he said. If you've never met a real Cajun, you don't know what I'm talking about. But I needed an interpreter. And so we got done talking. He said, all I want is some water. I said, yes, sir, Mike, we'll get you some water, brother. We gave him some water. And then he began to tell us about the storm and how the entire floor lifted him up. Now, this man's probably about 400 and something pounds. Yeah, I mean, he's probably shy of 5, but he's 4. He's a big boy. And at least he looked that way to me. And he said, yeah, he said, the floor lifted me up, me and my wife. And I'm thinking, whoa. I was thinking, that is a storm. And the roof, they talk like this, the roof come up. And I said, yeah, imagine that. So, he wishes he wouldn't have stayed. I'll put it that way. And so we talked a little bit more, and then he says, y'all want to see some alligators? And the kids are like, yeah. And I'm like, no. I said, no. I said, we already saw the dead one. And I said, I'm from Miami, from Florida. I've seen enough gators in my life. In fact, I've swam where gators swim. So he was going to take us to this little canal because everything was overflowed. And so I got Mike back to his senses. I was like, we're not going to do that, Mike. We're good. And so I guess he thought we were on a tourist type of trip. So we got away from Mike. We lived to tell the story there. And so we went again throughout the city looking, where do we go? This town on the bayous there, where do we go? And came across a church. I'm not going to get into the totality of this because this will probably be a sermon later. But came across this church and I thought, oh man, this would be great, man. There's a vehicle there. I went to the vehicle. It's a pastor. He rolls the window down and went to talk to him about everything. And he said, no, we don't need no help. I said, oh, okay. I said, yeah, everybody down there is fine. And I'm looking down this row of homes that are destroyed. And I know that ain't true. Come on, Sarah. I know that ain't true. And he was more preoccupied with the construction crew to come fix his roof than he was what I had in the back of that trailer. I had life in that trailer. And so I just said, okay, sir, man, I appreciate that. And I walked away from him. So there'll be more of that someday, I'm sure. And so again, we went into communities, and one of the problems we had was our van is so big with the trailer, we couldn't find places to go down and park into these mobile home areas. It was really, really rough. And so finally we came back 1 block. I'm going to preach a message about 1 block away from that church. I'm driving past this fire department, and there's a guy in a big yellow shirt, just like the ones we have for outreach, and he's standing there and he waves, hey man, like this, like he knew me. And I'm going, I don't know this guy, So we drive further down, and I said, fire department. I said, man, that's it, fire department. I said, we need to go back there. So we had to drive another 2 or 3 miles just to turn around. We couldn't turn around. We're too big. It was too big. And so we turned around. I pulled over. After turning around again, I pulled over, and I got out, and he come met us across the street. He said, well, hey, man, what y'all need? I said, sir, I said, I've got over 400 boxes of food. I got hygiene, cleaning supplies. I said, we need a place to distribute it. He said, you bring that thing into here, right across the street here with us. And so I went in there, and we pull in there, and there's firemen everywhere. Now, to tell you the backstory, I'm a former firefighter, firefighter EMT, and this whole thing, as I told Jennifer when I got home, I said this was a coming home for me. It was really, really emotional for me, not physically because people couldn't see it, but afterwards, it's even today. It's very emotional because that was my career. I was doing my thing like Paul. I had no intentions to preach the gospel. I was going to be a state fire marshal, and I had all these dreams, and then the Lord knocked me off my donkey and told me to preach, and I left all that behind. And so we get there, and we still don't know what's going to happen. I have nowhere to stay. Let me give you more background. I have nowhere to stay. I don't know anybody but a priest who's like 2 hours away the other way who I couldn't get a hold of. There are no hotels. There's no power. There's no gas. You're not going to stop at McDonald's. You're not going to do anything like that. We didn't even have dinner. Only thing we had was some snacks. She had made me some sandwiches, and the way we eat, we ate it by 10 that morning. We did. She makes a certain amount, we eat them, and then we split the last two. Remember that? And then we wait a couple more hours later and we eat that. I'm not saying that for you to feel sorry for me because I had 400 boxes of food in the back. But I ain't going to touch God's food. Right? I'm not going to, and he'd let me eat it if I had to. David ate the shoe bread, but I'm not going to touch God's Pop-Tarts if I can help it. But we had plenty of snacks, and we made a pact between each other. We said, look, we can make it through the night with snacks, but the next day when we drive, we got to get some meat. So we all said, okay, team, ready, break. We can do this. So anyways, we have nowhere to go. We have nowhere to sleep. I've already told them before we go, I said, you're going to have to do the military thing. You're going to have to sleep in the van. You're going to have to take a sponge bath. You got to rough it because that's life. That's the way it is. And they all agreed to go. I think they didn't want to do homeschool, but they agreed to go. Which some of them did. You all did while they rode. I thought Judah was asleep. He had his head down, but he was actually working. And so we get there, and they bring the fire chief out. He says, all right, open up. Let me see what you got. And they opened the door. He's like, wow. I said, yeah. He said, I can't believe all that was in there because the trailer doesn't look large from the outside, but it was huge inside as far as the things. And he was highly impressed. He said, back it up and let's get it off. We'll distribute it for you. And I said, yes, sir. Hey, no problem. So we all got together like a chain gang and got everything out of there and closed it back up. And I told him, I said, well, we're gonna go find somewhere to sleep. He said, well, why don't you stay here with us? And I said, sir, I can't do that. I mean, what? He said, and he didn't even take no for an answer. He took me into the administrative room they have there where they have a conference. And he said, I'll move all these desks and these tables out of here. And he said, you guys sleep right here. And they had generator power going in there. Air conditioner was on. Imagine that. And he said, you guys stay the night with us and I'll feed you. And I was just like, wow. And I tried not to get, too excited. I haven't stayed in the fire department a long time. And I was having a great time with the guys too, just kicking back. And they were loving on our children. And he said, not only that, he said, move that van over there next to that gas pump. I'm going to fill your van back up. So he completely filled the van up with fuel. And so more of the story will go on, but we came down to dinner time, and one of the produce trucks who carries food for the restaurants, they had nowhere to go because the places were out of power. So they donated all kinds of meat and food and stuff to the fire department. So they had plenty of food. And I'm telling you, they fed us steak that night. And I'm shaking my head. I'm like, look, I'm on a missions trip. I should be eating Pop-Tarts and Beanie Weenies. and I'm talking 3-finger size steak. And I'm just like, Lord, you are so awesome. You are so awesome to have the fatted calf slaughtered by people who don't even know me. I don't know them from Adam. And here you are providing for us. And all we did, and I'm talking about us, we did in those waters, we went by faith down there because there's a need. And God already had a place for us. And guess what? It wasn't the church. It wasn't the church. And that's a whole other message. And that's indicative of where we are. It was people who just loved to serve. He saw my cans. I had my cans laid out. He didn't care. He wanted that thing filled up with fuel. He said, I'll write it off on one of our other vehicles because we don't have to go get food in the central location. Now you've brought that for us. They were just giving out MREs and water. You guys know what we packed. We packed very, very good food in there. And so now they were giving the community good food. And so I'll tell you more in just after this little video here. But we spent the night there in the fire station. Well, we spent a few minutes in the fire station because they were getting calls and they were talking. And my children were like, don't they ever go to sleep? Not firemen. You might get an hour or two, but then they're going to get up and talk. And they took them on tour. And let me tell you this last part, and then I'll show you the video. They took them on tour, and they got to see the fire trucks, and they turned on everything, the lights and all that. And before we went in there, I was just standing there talking to the firemen and some other people outside. Law enforcement was there, and just like a big family, they accepted us. They didn't know us, never met us, but they accepted us. Where churches would reject you, they accepted us. And of course, I had a pass with that, and all my different paths and skills. That did make a way. The gift always makes a way. But it was more than that. There was something very supernatural about this. And so this one guy, his name is Gizmo. That's his nickname. His name is Chris. Gizmo says, can I speak to you? And I'm thinking, yeah, what did I do? I'm headed to the chief's office. I'm already kicked out. I just got here. I didn't know. So he takes me into where the fire engines are. It's some call it an engine room, a truck room. And I'm thinking, okay, what's going on here? I'm going to drive a truck or something. And he says, look, I need to talk to you. We have a fireman that's having an episode right now. And he's had some trauma. And I want you to use your pastoral abilities to pray with him and talk with him. And I was like, yeah. You know what I mean? I didn't do that in front of him, but I said to myself, like, yeah, Lord, see. I mean, if it was just for that guy, I see it, you know. And here's a big boy, big guy. He's on the back of a fire truck. He's in tears, and he's going through an episode of PTSD. And he begins to share the story. And what had happened was he had been on a scene where a toddler was hit by a car. And it was just recently, and the child was basically lying there dying, and as he went to rescue the child, the crowd grew almost to a riot because of the whole scene. If you've never been in any of those scenes, you really can't understand it, but people get very agitated when children are injured like that. And it was something to do with the parents. They were on drugs or what have you. And so he explained everything in detail as only a fireman could of what was happening. He said, I was able to rescue her. He said she lived, but she's a vegetable. For the rest of her life, she will not even know her parents. She'll never have children, never marry, never have any of those things of life. And he says, I feel guilty. He said, they gave me an award. They gave me a medal. They called me a hero because I saved this toddler, but what did I give her? And the guy was really, really struggling with this. This is real life. And I had the chance to tell him all my stories. And I said, let me explain to you. And I'm not going to belabor it, but I went into my testimonies of what I've seen. And those that are watching right now, the law enforcement, firemen, whatever, military, when we've seen these things, you have to process it. And even today, I told him, I said, I see scenes of my past, of what I saw. I see them very vividly. I could take you to the spot. I could tell you what color clothes they were wearing. I could tell you some of the colors of their eyes. That's how detailed it is. And it's just the way trauma is, and how you process trauma is important. And he was having trouble. He was just a young guy. So I was able to pray with him and get him through some of that, and get him back on his feet. And they're going to get him some more help, because I can only do so much while I'm there. But it was just amazing. I'm trying to paint this whole picture in this real fast time frame to explain how the Lord put it all together. He put it all together. Your steps and my steps are ordered by the Lord. We may not see through the dark clouds, but guess what? Keep moving towards him, and he'll lead you, and he'll bring you there. So his name is Hayden. I'm going to give you the name Hayden. Please pray for Hayden. He's got a long road of recovery. It may even jeopardize some of his job, because you cannot be he paralyzed he froze on a call, and you cannot do that in that work. You cannot freeze. You have to be functional, and so it could affect him. And so we just pray for a fast recovery for Hayden. Let me give you some statistics, and then I'll show you this real quick video, and then I'm gonna get out of the way. Jennifer's got some prayer requests to mention. Yeah, I thank you guys for letting me do this. Those on live stream. Yeah, thank you. This is, I think I gave us enough time. So, they wrote down here my mileage was 1,034 miles one way. That was for Tennessee and for Houma, I almost said Los Angeles, Louisiana. That was 17 hours of driving. Okay, this was done in 9 days. So the total trips were 2,068 miles, 34 hours of driving in 9 days with a trailer and 3 hungry children. I added the hungry children in there, but they did awesome. And so you say, what did that add up to? Hope. It added up to hope, and you guys made the difference.